From UFOs to psychic powers and government conspiracies, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know. A production of iHeartRadio.
Hello, welcome back to the show. My name is Matt.
My name is Noel.
They called me Ben. We're joined, as always, with our super producer, Dylan, the Tennessee pal Fagan. Most importantly, you are you. You are here. That makes this the stuff they don't want you to know. It's our weekly strange news program. So let us welcome you to Monday, November 17th, 2025. Raise your hand if you're not in prison.
Oh, God.
Not in a U.S. official prison. I guess we're all in a prison of existence.
An existential prison of the mind, yes.
There are a few people listening to this on a cell block who just went, oh.
That's okay.
Raise your hand. We're here with you. We're all in it together. That's our segue because we have been super tuned into a lot of strange news as we hurtle headlong toward 2026. And Ghislaine Maxwell from earlier is apparently getting some very special treatment in incarceration.
We talking neck massages, snacks. What are we talking?
Deference?
Okay. Deference is
the ultimate,
is just,
the ultimate treat.
Mm-hmm. And if you want to read more about that, there's a great primer over on CNN where the journalist Aaron Burnett spoke with the federal prison consultant Sam Mangle. And that's kind of a setup because I think we've all noticed that there is a bit of a division, or there has been of late, between the U.S. public and indeed the global public and the official mainstream media outlets. For a time, everybody on the internet, and especially our favorite subreddits, was saying, ignore this political news, release the Epstein files.
Comment sections are on fire with that one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Ben, if you don't mind, I just clicked on the link that you shared with us for this on the doc, and there, the things that she's getting access to are pretty insane.
The puppy is one of the
She got a puppy? Did she get a pony too?
Yeah, special meal request.
Okay. I was joking, but Lord.
Access to exercise areas after hours.
Oh my God.
Yeah. A lot of stuff that wouldn't normally happen even in the relatively nice, comfy place Ghislaine Maxwell is currently incarcerated at.
And does this feel like quid pro quo? Well, I mean, why? I just don't understand. She's a convicted sex predator, child sex trafficker. It's just such a bad look. Does she have something on someone? Or
That's the question. That's the setup.
I ask with a slight eyebrow waggle and also a healthy dose of naivete. But I mean, I think, something's wow.
Isn't it interesting though? That's the feeling that you get without knowing much about it, right? And then imagine all of the Americans who've been following this story, who do know just enough, right, to feel a little bit of a pain when they read something like that.
And additionally, before we go to our break and our breaking news, we must add that Ghislaine Maxwell's official special treatment began shortly after a still mysterious meeting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, and there's no question about her crimes, right? And yet there's discussion being bandied about a potential pardon. But anytime a pardon comes up, the president's typically like, well, I'll look into that. And he also seems to feign even remembering who Ghislaine Maxwell is when confronted with it often, which is super sus. But are we normalizing this kind of stuff? It gives me the ick in a very real way.
I think it gives most people the ick. I'd have your back on that one. What we can say is that there are always serious questions about pardons that may not seem to make sense or commutations. And then we have to ask whether there is a bit of a standoff or a dead man switch like we did in our earlier episodes on the Jeffrey Epstein news. And this is where we get to the chicken, as they say on the LA Leakers. We're going to pause for a word from our sponsors, and then, assuming we don't break our hyoid bones, we'll be back with something you need to know about, folks.
And we've returned. Just, I guess, as a way to get into this section, let's remember that meeting we're talking about between Ghislaine and an attorney that was set up by the executive branch and the Department of Justice was between the current president's former personal lawyer, right? And Ghislaine Maxwell.
Right.
That was the big deal on that whole thing.
And we don't know the substance of that conversation.
Oh, no, we do not. And no one will, because that was an attorney, I guess, and not a client, an attorney and an inmate.
Well, there's definitely some privilege going on. Like, at least be sure of that. Yeah.
Yes.
And that is, for the record, that is this legal beagle is not someone who specifically meets with everybody.
Yes. Yes, exactly. So let's go to Politico. Just again, this is just kind of an appetizer to set up the thing. Politico writing in August of this year about the statements Ghislaine Maxwell made after that secretive meeting with the attorney. She is saying here that she never witnessed the president, quote, in any inappropriate setting with girls introduced to him by Jeffrey Epstein. She also says, quote, I actually never saw the president in any type of massage setting. I never saw the president in any type of massage setting. Quote, I never witnessed the president in any inappropriate setting in any way. The president was never inappropriate with anybody. In the times that I was with him, he was a gentleman in all respects. Let's keep that in mind. The specific wording of those statements.
Yeah.
Okay.
Squarely in mind.
Okay. Cut to 8:45 this morning when my girlfriend showed me a little news alert that she received. And this is the news alert. It was from PBS News, an article by Liz Landers, written today, that we're recording November 12th, 2025. The title is, Read Jeffrey Epstein's newly released emails about Trump. So, let's jump right to this article and see where it takes us. Quote, Jeffrey Epstein specifically referenced his relationship with President Donald Trump in writing before Trump was elected to office, according to newly obtained emails released Wednesday by the House Oversight Committee. The emails are among 23,000 documents Epstein's estate released to the committee. They include correspondence between Epstein and his former girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell.
Matt, this is also the same estate that released the birthday book, correct? A lot of this stuff is coming directly from them.
Yes, the estate is releasing a lot of things. The House Oversight Committee is getting them. And in this case, some of these emails were released specifically by members of the House Committee there. They were also sent directly to PBS and several other news outlets. So, fellas, you want to read some emails?
Heck yeah. I mean, must we? But okay.
Yes. First thing I want to do, guys, I want to talk about the disclaimer that's at the end of each one of these emails from Epstein's email account, which is jeevacation@gmail.com, by the way. That's exciting. It's Jeffrey Epstein's vacation email. In 2011, the signature read, and this is a long one, bear with me here. The information contained in this communication is confidential, may be attorney-client privileged, may constitute inside information, and is intended only for the use of the addressee. It is the property of Jeffrey Epstein. Unauthorized use, disclosure, or copying of this communication in any part thereof is strictly prohibited and may be unlawful. If you have received this communication in error, please notify us immediately by return email or email to jeevacation@gmail.com and destroy this communication and all copies thereof, including all attachments.
This message may or may not self-destruct. Like, wow.
So it sounds like something that would make sense for a financier, somebody who is helping others with monies and helping them make investments and that kind of thing, right?
Privileged information, right? Proprietary trade secrets, perhaps, yeah?
Yes. But something about the including all attachments really creeps me out. I don't know why.
Hey, it could be a spreadsheet. Could be a PDF.
That's right. That's right. Okay. Without further ado, guys, we're going to do these in chronological order. So let's jump to email number 1. This occurs on April 2nd, 2011. That's a Saturday. According to the email, it happened at 14:25:45. So 2:25 p.m., we're assuming, wherever Jeffrey Epstein was when he sent this. And this is Jeffrey Epstein writing this, jeevacation@gmail.com. Quote, I want you to realize that dog that hasn't barked is Trump. And there's a redacted section right here, which is the name of a victim. That's how it's written and how it was released by the House committee there. It says, victim spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned. Police chief, etc. I'm 75% there. Then there's a reply from Gmax, or Ghislaine Maxwell, that's Gmax1 at lmax.com. Ghislaine replies, quote, I've been thinking about that, unquote. So, specifically, guys, what do we think about the wording there? That quote, that dog that hasn't barked, and what about this phrase, I'm 75% there?
Yeah,
what
I don't
do we
know
think
about that
about
one.
this?
That one's confusing to me. I'm 75% there, maybe in my position of having Trump on lock in some way, or like owning him.
I don't know. Remember,
I don't know.
this is 2011.
Yeah, no, you're right. This precedes Trump's rise in politics, but this is also insider circles. Maybe there were whispers about future plans. I don't know.
Well, Ben, specifically, what do you think? That those phrases feel spycrafty to me.
It definitely, from the outside in, feels like there is an attempt to communicate with obfuscation, right? Like we are not specifically saying watch out, but we're saying things like dog hasn't barked 75%. So if someone is attempting to glean a deeper meaning, then they can probably reasonably and logically find one, because otherwise those exchanges of information simply don't make sense.
Right. Well, we know the context is everything, right? Because we know at this point Epstein has been charged with some pretty serious crimes, and then he got off pretty easily with this whole, work from home kind of thing, or get to go to work from prison and all that stuff. He
kind of got a return to office mandate, though. His lawyers secured that for him.
Eventually, but this is 2011.
Right.
So this is the in-between times after he was first charged and arrested for stuff, and then before he was sent back to prison. So it's interesting that this kind of discussion is being had at this time. So I guess if we're going to go in chronological order, we're going to jump down to email number 3, at least according to the release. So this is where we need to introduce this gentleman, Michael Wolff. That's Wolff with 2 Fs. He's an award-winning journalist and author. His work has covered numerous subjects across the world, but his focus for the past, let's say, decade and a half or so has been on power players in politics and in media. He's written books like The Man Who Owns the News,
Rupert Murdoch. Yeah.
A biography of Rupert Murdoch, The Fall, The End of Fox News and the Murdoch Dynasty, Fire and Fury, Inside the Trump White House, and All or Nothing, How Trump Recaptured America. So you can see a bit of a pattern here. When he finds a preferred subject, it appears that Michael really digs in, specifically Rupert Murdoch and Donald Trump there. Another one of Michael's, let's say, work interests was Jeffrey Epstein. Not the subject, but the actual human being, Jeff. You see, Michael spent a lot of time with Jeff in real life. He recorded hours and hours of their conversations, and he has been talking about those recordings and releasing them for a while now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we brought this up earlier on air. I mentioned it. I think it was back in, let's see, he had a book in 2021, Landslide, which was about the previous Trump administration. But I think, Matt, correct me if I'm off base here, he recorded something like 100 hours worth of interviews with Jeffrey Epstein as a primary source in his research. Is that correct?
Well, I saw that on, it was mentioned in Wikipedia, but I couldn't find a source for that. But he has stated a couple of times that he has spent a lot of time, like personal time, on the phone. Absolutely. Because he's been talking and talking and talking, and he's been releasing some stuff through his podcast. And again, if you go to the Daily Beast, there's something written on November 2nd, 2024 by Hugh Daugherty. You can just search, listen to the Jeffrey Epstein tapes. I was Donald Trump's closest friend.
Is there a sense that Wolf is swept up in this in a way that belies his position as a journalist?
I have not seen that. I have not heard about that. Much of what I've seen is Michael Wolff's writing, or those recordings that he's putting out there into the public.
Is he getting ahead of it though? I guess is what I'm getting at. Like he's putting all this out there to get the heat off of him, because it would seem like if he's in these personal exchanges that he might have known some stuff too. I don't know.
That's a great question.
Because there are journalistic guarantees for protection of sources that are increasingly endangered in the United States. So we know that he has made some claims for the past several years. So the breaking news is actually the American public being able to put some sand or some support behind the claims that Wolf has been making for some time, is how I would say it, if that's all right.
Makes sense.
I think that's perfectly fine. So let's jump to email 3. Here we have Michael Wolff, whose email address has been redacted, you guys. Writing on December 15th, 2015. So we've gone from 2011 to 2015. This is Michael Wolff writing to Jeffrey Epstein. Michael says, quote, "I hear CNN planning to ask Trump tonight about his relationship with you, either on air or in scrum afterwards." Epstein replies, "If we were able to craft an answer for him, what do you think it should be?" And then Wolff says back to him, and this is where that line is getting a little weird to me, Noel, that you're asking about.
Yes.
This is Wolff's reply. Quote, "I think you should let him hang himself. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the house, then that gives you a valuable PR, like press release, and political currency. You can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you, or if it really looks like he could win," again, we're talking about the presidency here in 2015, "if it really looks like he could win, you could save him, generating a debt. Oof. Of course, it is possible that when asked, he'll say, Jeffrey is a great guy and has gotten a raw deal and is a victim of political correctness."
Which he kind of did.
Yeah. And just concluding there, which is to be outlawed in a Trump regime.
Which it kind of is, but he did all of those things. That's wild.
Yeah. I just made a little note here. Whoa, is Michael a journalist or Epstein's manager?
He seems like his consigliere, man. This is wild. He's crafting the PR line for him.
It's a little weird, right? Well, it's less of a PR line to me, Noel, and more of a strategy, like a strategist.
Well, PR is strategy.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
It's like fallout management or whatever. That's a part of PR, is like crisis management. That's what he's doing here. He's acting as a very high level player in that strategy.
It's pretty weird, y'all.
I will say, fellow conspiracy realists, do note that Michael Wolff is currently running a GoFundMe due to legal action by Melania Trump. He is getting the pants sued off him. Allegedly, there is a $1 billion damages claim based on him saying that Melania Trump was also acquainted on some level with Jeffrey Epstein. So to Noel's point about consigliere crisis management.
And isn't Hunter Biden getting sued for the same reasons, for saying in an interview that he did with that Channel 5 podcast guy that they met each other?
Oh, I don't know.
No, it's true. Like that claim, which he was repeating from Wolff. That's what it was. He received a cease and desist from Melania as well for this very same little nugget of information, the idea that Trump and Melania met one another through Epstein.
And then Wolff filed a lawsuit in October of this year against Melania Trump. And then Melania's folks, just so I can clarify, they reportedly threatened this journalist, Wolff, with a damages claim. So really the rubber is hitting the road with the U.S. government releasing these emails that we've been talking about.
Oh, yeah. You can head over to NBC News and you can search for author Michael Wolff sues Melania Trump over Jeffrey Epstein threat. That was October 22nd, 2025. And that's exactly what we're talking about here. And it is very interesting that it can be like a cease and desist message from an attorney. You better stop talking about this stuff or we'll sue you for $1 billion. But then it is great that, an author or somebody who is trying to exercise their freedom of speech can just say, well, actually, no, you're sued. Don't do that, please. Don't threaten me.
At some point, it ends up being a bunch of kids playing tag, you're it, or like I'm rubber, you're glue, or three Spider-Men pointing at each other.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the U.S. legal system, and I love that we're bringing up the First Amendment because that's going to be really important toward the end of Strange News today.
Well, and guys, obviously this is very new, these emails. Do you think the Trump administration is going to say they're fake?
Well, hey, guess what? As of 24 minutes ago, when we were recording, it is 11:46 now. So around 11:20, the Guardian is reporting that the White House says a new batch of Epstein emails is part of, quote, a fake narrative in an attempt to smear Donald Trump. Let's see. Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt, I don't know how to say her name, says the unnamed victim within these emails reference to is the late Virginia Joffrey, who repeatedly said President Trump was not involved in any wrongdoing whatsoever. However, the emails redacted the name of the victim when they were released. So somebody knows who it is within the administration. It says, quote, the fact remains that President Trump kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of his club decades ago for being a creep to his female employees, including Joffrey.
But we've discussed how the timeline's a little funky about that one, too, in terms of, like, Trump saying he was a good guy, and then supposedly he had broken ties with him before him saying that.
Yes. So here's where it gets curiouser and curiouser, guys. Email number 2, just in order there of the release. This is 2019. So 3 years after President Trump has taken office, right? Here is the message from jeevacation@gmail.com, also known as Jay in this email. And it's written to Michael Wolf. Here it is. The first part of this email is a giant redacted section that is just a victim's name, according to the House committee. Then it says Mar-a-Lago, period. Then there is a full redacted sentence that we don't know what it says, then a period. And then it says, Trump said he asked me to resign. Never a member, ever. Of course, he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop. This is in 2019.
Resign from what and stop what?
He says, they're talking about Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, he says it was a member of the club, right? Yeah.
Pretty weird, right? Some sentence as though, because we're talking here about how Trump kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of his club. And then in this email from 2019, it appears to, who knows, because we don't know the full context, but it appears to say that Epstein was never a member of Mar-a-Lago.
But then they could argue, well, we told him to take a hike. We told him to not come around. Don't come around here no more. Yeah.
Sure. Who knows? And finally, from the White House, any American with common sense sees right through this hoax and clear distraction from the government opening back up again. Who knows? Mm-hmm. That's all I've got, guys.
Something to chew on. Very new. Thanks, Matt.
All right. We'll be right back with more strange news.
And we've returned. Got a couple shorties for y'all today. I'm going to just jump right in with space food.
I love a couple shorties. Hashtag no Epstein.
Yeah, well, no. Couple shorties, some short kings for us here today on this segment of Strange News. Going to lead off with a space story out of the International Space Station where they are apparently going to debut astronaut food made of pee.
Finally.
Finally, Waterworld is real. Astronauts embarking on long-term space missions could eat space food made from a protein powder consisting of air and urine. The European Space Agency, as News Nation reports, launched a pilot program called Hobie-Wan.
What?
And Noel, kick it for us. That is an acronym, correct?
Oh boy, is it ever. The Kenobi is I think, understood. It is hydrogen oxidizing bacteria in weightlessness as a source of nutrition. Kenobi.
Whoa!
And I love how they specifically capitalize only certain words in there.
Yeah,
because otherwise it would be Hybe was
I love a convenient acronym. You gotta love it. This program is essentially testing whether it's possible to create this protein powder that's already got a pretty spacey name in Soline. Sounds like something out of an Aldous Huxley novel that requires nothing but microbes, air, and electric current to generate or to manufacture.
Man, it already sounds delicious.
Yeah,
guys.
yum. It's like Soylent Green and
we
Soline.
haven't even talked about the flavors. Yeah,
well, hopefully, I want mine in bubblegum. Soline relies on urea, Yes, uric acid, I imagine, is similar to that, if not the same thing. An organic compound found in urine as a nitrogen source for protein synthesis. The protein powder developed by Finnish startup Solar Foods will be tested by the ESA, that is the European Space Agency, in a future mission aboard the ISS, the International Space Station. Marks the first time this kind of tech has been used to develop a powder that can be used in a space environment. So we've come a long way since freeze-dried ice cream, fellas. Just add pee.
Yeah. It's apparently a completely natural protein, as per the website of Solar Foods, originating from a, quote, natural, non-modified single-cell organism. And
That's pee.
I love that you're pointing out the nitrogen, because when they're talking about Soline specifically, they're not just talking about space. This is a great headline. They're talking about the idea of maybe ending famine on the surface of Earth.
I'm down with that. No question about it. Also, what happened to all the discussion around creating foodstuffs out of like ground up insects? Is that still happening? Because that always seemed like a real viable option that I'm fully on board. And I'm not even saying this from a like feed the poor insects. I'm into it. Give it to me. I will eat the hell out of some insects. And I bet you could make some tasty protein substitutes that you could, have around the house.
Yeah, insects, by the way, insect consumption is still an active debate at the United Nations. The thing is, other than folks like us, I don't know about Matt, but other than folks like you and me, Noel, a lot of people get the ick.
We've talked
when they
about
hear
that.
about eating insects. So,
that's the barrier to scale, right?
To entry, right. So right now at the United Nations, there are a ton of world leaders who are saying, this is great and this solves a lot of problems for everybody, but not us.
Well, it's similar to the issues around using gray water for certain things. The idea of turning gray water into potable water. It can be done. We've talked about stories revolving around that kind of technology, but there is this ick factor that causes people to really question, I don't want to drink potentially, pee-pee water, which also seems that it could likely be a case with this pea protein. Not PEA protein, which is also a thing people put in their muscle milk or whatever. But I could see a barrier to entry because of that ick factor here as well. The developers do hope it'll be available space-wide by 2035.
And another thing that I love you for pointing out there is the idea of barrier to entry has occurred before in other foodstuffs. If you think about it, milk is kind of gross.
Yeah.
That's a weird flex.
Bacon, man. Let's talk about the bacon conundrum / creation as a marketing ploy. It was originally considered trash meat that was not fit for consumption, and then repackaged and sold as breakfast food.
Shellfish as well, lobster used to be prison food here in the United States, and that's mainly because of the way they cooked it, by the way, folks. They didn't take the shell off.
Oh, okay.
Guys, I think so. I'm hearing you, and I agree with everything you're saying. I'm just trying to imagine someone attempting to sell the concept of cow piss. Now drink cow piss.
Now, Matt, milk isn't pee. Okay.
Well, I know.
It might have a little pee in it.
But what I'm saying is
a little bit of blood.
The jump from cow milk as which is objectively gross, and I agree with you guys.
Yeah.
But to then your own pee,
drinking your own pee. I mean, y'all, you've seen some of these, let's say, quack types that are saying drinking your own urine is like good for you. Don't stand behind that one, nor does science, if I'm not mistaken. But
it's not going to kill you, but it's not good for you.
Yeah, exactly. Because it is literally all the bad that your kidneys filter out, and it seems like maybe a bad idea to put in. But surely we don't know the specifics, and I'm sure we could do some more digging. The process of refinement and processing that this saline undergoes would filter out those bad things and turn it into it isolates that aspect and uses it to fuel the process that generates the good stuff.
Yeah, to synthesize the protein. And also, this reminds me of our earlier conversations where we talked about how as technology evolves, it increasingly mimics existing biological processes. We also want to give a shout out to super producer Tennessee, who noted that Mercedes used urea injection to reduce harmful emissions in diesel engines. And also you added, Dylan, good enough for a luxury car, good enough for a person. So here's what I'm thinking. Guys, guys, are we losing money every time we piss? Are we literally peeing away profits? Should we save our stuff and
Jar
sell
that
it?
business up, man.
And sell it to Finland or startup investors? Piss up investors? We'll work on it.
Guys, I just found a quote that's all in a New York Post article that is related to this, and you can read it on your own time, but it is about a gentleman that claims to have cured testicular cancer by urine looping, and he also
urine looping. That's a
when
new
you
term
drink your,
on me. Oh, I get
it's
it.
When
it's
you
very
drink your pee.
descriptive.
Yeah, it's when you drink your own urine.
Never heard it trotted out like that before, and I'm gonna start using it in conversation.
It's gonna give it some Bonafides. It's gonna give it a slight asparagus tinge of credibility.
Oh,
that's
gosh.
so gross. Oh, it's so human centipede. Yeah.
So Matt, what were you saying?
Oh, I don't know. Just I couldn't believe the post. It was connected to the one you put in the doc, Noel. This was like linked to it. This guy, this model, who wrote a book about being ripped at 50, talks about doing urine enemas and splashing it on his skin and having his morning.
Just put it right back into your own pee hole.
Just dock it. That's the name of it. Yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry, y'all. We got gross at this one, but it's interesting and it is more sci-fi.
And it's cool.
It is cool.
Maybe this is just a earthbound mud people prejudice. Maybe astronauts in the future are going to say, you guys just pee in holes in the ground? This is gold. Why you guys aren't on Mars.
There's gold in them there.
Ureas.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you, sir. Thank you for finishing for me. That was the way to do it. All right, so we're going to put a pin in that one for now and move on to the city of Paris, the city of love. I think they call it that. Not brotherly love. That's Philly. Paris is just love. A very romantic city, a storied place of poetry and art and music and culture. Also, the burial place for some pretty notable folks, including The Doors frontman Jim Morrison, the Lizard King himself, as well as Edith Piaf. Who else we got?
Oscar Wilde.
Oscar Wilde, 100% Oscar Wilde, and Jean-Paul Sartre, as well as Susan Sontag, very, very notable folks. A lot of these people are buried in the Montparnasse Cemetery there in Paris, which is a very storied burial place in a city of where real estate is at a premium. I was listening to my buddy Jonesy on his podcast Weird AF News, and he pointed out that Paris doesn't really build up like a lot of modern cities. I think there are historical markers and designations and regulations that prevent them from doing so. So what they are doing is in maybe realizing that there is a bit of a scarcity of land, including burial land. The city of Paris has announced, according to CNN Travel, Jack Guy writes, a lottery with a twist. Instead of a cash prize, entrants can instead win the chance to be buried in one of the French capital's most celebrated cemeteries. Cemeteries within the city walls have been almost full since the beginning of the 20th century, with the clearing of abandoned tombs complicated by local regulations, some of the ones we were just talking about. If you do decide to go in for this lottery and you win, you will be granted the opportunity to buy and restore. This is a restoration / historic preservation effort. One of the 30 tombs in 3 of these different historic cemeteries, with City Hall agreeing to lease the corresponding burial plots to those who meet certain standards. In recent decades, City Hall said in a statement, cemetery visitors throughout France have expressed an interest in restoring a historic funerary monument in order to obtain a burial plot concession in return. However, the chance to do so has been complicated by laws governing the land in which the tombs are located, which is owned by the state, as well as laws governing the circumstances in which a family may rent the plot for a period of time. So we've got 10 plots up for grabs in Prairie-la-Chasse Cemetery, which includes one's near Jim Morrison's grave, the frontman of The Doors. Taken from, I believe, Aldous Huxley novel or a book called The Doors of Perception, where he talks about his drug addiction.
Quick question, Noel, for the rest of us in the audience as well as me. What do we mean by renting a plot? Does that mean that after the term expires, similar to bunk 'em up, the person is disinterred?
Yeah, That didn't quite come up in this piece. It looks like it's more like rent to own. I think maybe the better term might be lease, but it is a little confused in throwing that term rent. And I think I pulled a little snippet from this paragraph earlier, but let's just give us the whole thing so maybe we can understand a little bit more. However, giving them a chance to do so has been complicated by the laws governing the land on which a tomb is located, which is owned by the state, and concessions under which a family rents the plot for a defined period of time. It does not say what happens when that time period expires, and I still don't understand how that's even possible. Given the nature of burial, it seems like that would be considered sacrilege and no one would sign up for that. Why would I rent a burial plot knowing that it was temporary? Like, what's the point of that?
I can tell you, just to spin it out in a dystopian way, say you've got an alien relative that really wants to be buried there, and you say, yeah, Uncle Jimbo, we'll put you right next to Jim. And then, Uncle Jimbo is gone after, well, presumably they're not buried alive. And so after that certain amount of time, I don't know, it gets sticky real quick. As we know, there are other parts of the world wherein burial is temporary, right? In Japan, in different parts of Central America, you're in there for a minute, or you might later get cremated to make room for other people, depending on the water table, depending on the real estate.
Well, gosh.
Dozens of other variables.
Well, gosh, Ben, if I'm not mistaken, we've discussed some issues there with people being interred upon previously interred individuals. And there having been in Paris, I want to say, floods that caused bodies to literally come up out of the muck and be disinterred, like through Mother Nature's actions.
You're absolutely correct, man.
I do seem to remember discussing that on one of the podcasts that we do. I will give a little bit more figures associated with this. I think this is actually really interesting because it's a lot cheaper than I would have thought, given the historic context, of these places. So each existing tomb, the article says, will be available to buy for 4,000 euros or 4,600 American, with the winners also on the hook for restoration costs, which are not specified. And I imagine that's where the real money might come in. If you are then responsible for a historic preservation project, that could get pricey pretty quick. They will then be able to buy a lease, the cost of which starts at 976 euros, $1,200 roughly, $1,120 rather, for a 10-year contract, and increases to 17,668 euros, or around 20 grand, for the right to rest there in perpetuity. Very convoluted pricing structures here. I don't quite understand much of this, frankly. Last bit, applications to the lottery open on Monday and will close on December 31st, according to City Hall, with each entrant subject to a nominal 125 euro registration fee. Seems like a bit of a cash cow for the city.
It very much is. It kind of reminds me of those deals you'll see, folks, if you sip social meds, you may see various advertisements that say, hey, buy a house for peanuts here in rural Italy or rural Japan or this benighted part of Scandinavia. And then if you read the fine print, it says you also are on the hook for upkeep and restoration and renovation,
up to some
taxes,
taxes forever.
Those codes are prohibitively to the point of this whole thing. They folks that own historic properties, often there's a lot of hidden costs in having to restore certain features up to code in order to maintain the cultural integrity of the place.
Right, like an historic landmark kind of thing. Yeah, we're just going to tell you, folks, if someone's trying to sell you a castle, Americans, hear us well. If someone in Europe is trying to sell you a castle, it is way more expensive than it sounds. Also, perhaps this is wholesome on behalf of the French government, because our friends are recognizing that an appeal to narcissism and vanity is a great way to keep your ancient cemeteries up to snuff.
Grandpa deserves to be buried next to these literary luminaries. And
He's a bit of a Jim Morrison himself. He's seen some doors.
He was a bit of a lizard king. I love the checklist, you guys. Do you want to be buried in a historic cemetery? Check. Do you have $30,000 US just at hand and ready to pay for this thing? Oh, never mind.
Well, another thing that I don't think there's definitely no indication that you are required to be a French citizen.
You were not.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. Jim Morrison certainly wasn't, nor was Oscar Wilde, if I'm not mistaken. So pretty neat. And I'm going to end with this. I had another one about AI and an open letter from, let's see, I'm just going to say it real quick. Y'all can read up on it yourselves. It's definitely interesting. Public Citizen is the name of the group. That is a watchdog group that has essentially issued an open letter asking for OpenAI to withdraw their Sora 2 app because of just the utter chaos it is wreaking on just the believability of reporting. You know, we're getting to a point now where I've seen some ABs where it's like, which one's the AI footage? Like people chopping onions and stuff, and I got it wrong every time. And we're even hearing from experts, supposed experts in the field that normally would be able to find a tell some kind of indication that what you're seeing is not to be believed, and that's becoming increasingly difficult. So they are saying that in an effort to get ahead of competitors, OpenAI released this tool, and it is a indication of a, quote, consistent and dangerous pattern of OpenAI rushing to market with a product that is either inherently unsafe or lacking in needed guardrails. And I'll just add, I think you know what, let me finish with their statement. Our biggest concern is the potential threat to democracy, said Public Citizen. Tech policy advocate J.B. Branch, I think we're entering a world in which people can't really trust what they see. And we're starting to see strategies in politics where the first image, the first video that gets released is what people remember. And that's nothing new, y'all. That's why everyone reads the headline. No one reads the retraction. It's now an even more experiential version of that. And I think it's absolutely dangerous. I don't think this is going to go anywhere. An open letter, I don't know that it ever did much, but it's just definitely signposting some real concerns that I think we share here on Stuff They Don't Want You to Know. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe let's kick that around for a minute. I just think it was too important not to discuss, especially given some of what we've already been discussing. This idea of things now being claimed to be fake news or fake video or AI. It's adding, not only can we not trust it, we can't trust whether the real thing is real because people are calling into question because of where this stuff has gone, then no, you shouldn't trust that, even if it may well be the truth.
You know what we're going to see really soon, guys? Sora for emails. It just makes fake emails. And then you can say, oh, those emails weren't real.
Well, that's the thing it's interesting you say that, Matt. I was hanging out with a buddy of mine yesterday, and it was, I believe, the third time I've heard from someone who works in corporate America saying how the biggest implementation that's being pushed for of ChatGPT and assisted AI productivity tools is to fully write the emails for reasons of self-preservation and protecting. Because the bot knows what not to say, what not to admit to. Maybe I argue. Yeah. I think we all do that. It creates more work than it actually solves a problem. But yeah, that's really already happening, man.
It'll be scary when they can write emails from 2011.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good point. What do you think, Ben? I know that we're very much on the same page about the pitfalls and knock-on consequences of this move fast and break stuff mentality.
Yeah, I'll keep it brief, but there's a thing I almost sent all of us and fellow listeners. If you want to hear it or if you want to read this yourself, check out a poll recently published today, November 12th, as we're recording this. A survey shows that 97% of respondents cannot differentiate AI music from the quote-unquote real thing. Now, I know we're running super long on our weekly strange news segment here, but I do appreciate you bringing this up, Noel, because it's going to become increasingly apparent that the pendulum is swinging wildly here from people. People tend to support the idea of AI automation until it endangers them, and then we see a full 180. But I'd love to do a full episode in the future about deep fakes, AI-generated music, and all those people scooting by on emails they did not write.
1,000,000%. And that's exactly where it's headed, Ben. That's something I think we've got more than enough material to rock that full-length episode. And I will just add the last thing and then move on to our final segment. The normalization of this stuff, by virtue of it seeming like a fun parlor trick that can make Mr. Rogers do juggling, or Stephen Hawking skate on a half pipe, that I think is a conscious effort to make these technologies feel harmless. And I think in that, it's even more dangerous because you have folks being, beguiled by the goofy kind of parlor trick of it all. And it causes them to maybe overlook the real danger. So there you go. Let's take a quick break, hear a word from our sponsor, and then we'll come back with more strange news.
And we have returned. I want to give a shout out real quick to everyone who clocked the idea of the First Amendment in our earlier conversation at the first act of our weekly Strange News segment. So, folks, let's set it up this way. In the U.S. and abroad, we are all, as Noel mentioned, unfortunately used to wild claims and clear hogwash. Here in the States, a lot of that is protected under a little something we call the First Amendment. It reads the following. If we could get a little fife, little Founding Fathers music, Tennessee. Thank you. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peacefully to assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances.
Hear, hear! Yeah!
Hear, hear! Oh, thank you. Thank you, Senator Frederick, and Senator Brown as well. For our purposes today, look, folks, the First Amendment has a ton of stuff in there. Real quick, let's unpack it. They're saying separation of church and state. They're also saying you can worship how you want. They're also saying if you are the press, you can talk stuff without getting blackbagged. They're also saying even if you're dumb, you can say what you want. Even if you're wrong, for instance, like you're an avid flat earther, and feel free to send an email if you can prove flat earth. But they're saying even if you are demonstrably wrong, you can say what you want. You can even put together a little hangout session on the corner of your favorite main street or high street, and you can get together and you can say whatever cockamamie idea you care about.
You just have to be influential, right? And a good speaker.
You just have to also not threaten people directly. Mm-hmm. You can't say the earth is flat. Let's, kill the prime minister of Slovakia or some other made up thing. So that for our purposes today, for this last act of our weekly Strange News segment and program, we have to note this passage of the United States founding documents means, again, you can just talk trash. You do not have to be an expert. You can raise your voice in a public forum. You can hear here in a physical, online, or, wherever people gather, a forum of some sort. And as we record this program on November 12th, the First Amendment is again endangered in the United States. There are a lot of cases of this conflict. Like we've all seen it, right? Political officials are demanding rollbacks of things that were once treated as best practices, established medical things like vaccinating your kids from whooping cough, right? Which is whooping cough's having a moment, as we all saw in Texas and in Florida, because people are vaccinating less. We don't have to get into that bag of badgers, but we know professors, researchers, and scientists are being silenced. There is a great brain drain afoot, and it will spell disaster and doom for America's primacy in the New World Order. And China, proponents argue, is thinking ahead. There is a new thing happening as we record. If you are an influencer in the nation of China and you are speaking about specific areas of expertise, you will now have to prove to the Chinese government that you have your bona fides. You will have to be able to say, hey, I'm talking about medical stuff because I'm a medical person.
Mm-hmm. Oh, guys, I'm torn on this one.
Yeah,
I may partially agree.
That's what I'm thinking, Matt. Like that's the real pickle of it. That's the badger in the bag here, because this is maybe old beans for people who are a little more plugged in for us, but China is officially requiring university degrees for influencers discussing specifically medicine, law, or finance. And finance is tricky because a lot of people who have degrees in finance don't know what they're talking about.
Or they already drank the Kool-Aid.
Or they drink the Kool-Aid. Yeah, because it's kind of a religion, right? It's a dogma.
Whoa. Okay, but so then you're only really allowed to, in some minor way, parrot the things that you learn in school, like the official versions of how this stuff works, right?
Great question, and not fully correct.
Okay.
You can disagree with status quo.
Okay.
You can pose alternative stuff. If you come up to, like let's say you're on social media in China, like Douyin, which is basically their TikTok now, and you say, hey, I think you should maintain a urine loop for your health, Steve Brule style. Well, then it's okay for you to say that if you follow it up with, also, I have a medical degree. So I can say beat me here, Tennessee, I can say all the wild and I want.
So you can just Dr. Oz it.
You could just Metman it. So this is coming to us from our good friends over at the Cyberspace Administration of China, or CAC. And they're doing this in coordination with the Ministry of Culture and Tourism of the PRC, People's Republic of China. If you want to learn, if you want a great primer on this, before we get to the discussion that I'm quite excited about, do check out Law for Everything. Law for Everything published an awesome primer here on November 1st, 2025, and it walks through exactly what has to happen. This is happening, by the way. If you are an influencer in China talking about these things to the public en masse, then you have until pretty much the end of December to show up, show out, or GTFO. They will not necessarily throw you in prison, but they will give you an egregious fine. And once you get, as we all know, anybody who's spent some time there, once you get flagged by the government, once that Sauron eye is on you, it's very easy to disappear. And
Yikes.
maybe lose a kidney, maybe a liver.
No, thank you.
That's what they're saying. So this is the question. This is what I think we're all Natalie and Bruglia level torn about. It is philosophically, it's kind of a win to prevent vulnerable, credulous people from being exposed to absolute malarkey, right? To hogwash. It would be kind of cool if we knew somebody was speaking from a position of expertise or experience or considered concentrated thought. But it violates the First Amendment. Like, should the U.S. do this? Should the U.S. have everybody who argues for consuming silver or gold, should they have to be a doctor? Or at the very least, an economist?
One of the major problems with this version of the internet, as Dylan mentioned in our chat here, is that the misinformation, disinformation, just specifically misinformation, runs so rampant, specifically across social media feeds and that open forum that we're talking about that the First Amendment protects, that it becomes so confusing for people who end up isolated in a specific bubble, and that's all of us, by the way. So I do wonder if you had people who knew what they were talking about this stuff, would that then foster the real there's terms for this, but like that, the connecting of people who have ideas and then having conversations about those ideas and then forming new ones with
genuine discourse. Yeah.
Yes. That, like, it feels like you could foster that if you did impose some kind of rules like that. And then everybody else could comment on it if they wanted to, if they aren't informed. But again, that it's so restricting.
That's another, you've raised some great issues here because first you have to have any content that offers advice or commentary will be accompanied by three things. You have to have clear indication of credentials of the speaker. You have to have citation of appropriate sources, and you have to have disclosure on whether or not artificial intelligence is used, or if there's a a dramatization. So what we would call a recre in like a true crime thing. So you have to be able to say like, hey, this is not the actual Thomas Jefferson who was alive, and died well before motion cameras existed. So not the real Tommy. Also, I am a real historian. Also, here is the paper that I'm reacting to. This doesn't stop people from necessarily posing alternative commentary, right? But it does seem to heighten the barrier to entry. And one of the dangerous consequences of this could be, and this is just gaming it through, right? This could be leading to a situation wherein those experts who are qualified by the Chinese government are then told what is appropriate to speak about. They get an Overton window of medicine, finance, science, space exploration, urine looping, etc.
Dude, it makes me think about Avi Loeb and like having all those Bonafides that he has and, holding that position, but still saying things on his own medium, his website, essentially on Medium, and saying things that end up getting commented on by us and everybody else out there and Joe Rogan. And then how somebody with Bonafides can end up putting so many differing ideas that are outside of the mainstream into the
discourse. Yeah. And being smart on paper does not preclude individuals from being nuts about other things. I think history has shown that. Yeah,
that's a great point. And like we were talking about earlier, I was listening to one of our previous conversations where we pointed out that being an expert in one field of science doesn't automatically make you an expert in every related field. Like, for instance, a podiatrist is going to be very quick to say they're not an expert on ophthalmology, which is the right thing. Like a astrophysicist is also going to be quick to say, I'm not necessarily an expert on this other aspect of studies of space. So I think the real question for us here, and we can't wait to hear from you, fellow conspiracy realists, is whether something like this should exist in the United States. If so, how would it be enforced? Now, Uncle Xi is saying that, Uncle Xi's boys are saying that they're saying that if you are not qualified, right, if you've made millions of followers on your Chinese social media of choice, they're saying you don't have to automatically shut down your circus tent. You have to stop talking about this stuff, or you have to go to school, which I think is like a very parental, maybe patriarchal, maybe Orwellian thing, but it's a way out. It's an off-ramp to say, hey, you pretend to be a doctor, go be a doctor.
I'm not a doctor. I just play one on TV or on my podcast, right? I mean, but is this all a free speech issue too? Like, people are allowed to be quacks. Like, you're allowed to say random and they're the barrier to proving that someone is spouting out dangerous information in this country, at least, seems real high. Like to prove malice in spreading quote unquote misinformation. It just seems to be like the order of the day.
Yeah, and I appreciate you bringing that up because that's what we're kind of talking about at the top. The First Amendment says no matter how uninformed or demonstrably wrong your ideas are, you have a right to say those ideas, and indeed you can form a club for those ideas. Even if it's something like, secretly, all human beings do have tails, and they're just cut off because of big medicine, then you could totally do that here.
Well, as malleable as the Constitution is supposed to be, I would argue the founding fathers definitely didn't think about the internet or didn't foresee the way information can be spread so quickly. And now we have these extra layers with like not even be able to trust the information that you get so rapidly. And yeah.
That's why it's a pitch meeting. That's why they didn't know about nuclear weapons. They never thought of semi-automatic firearms. They didn't think there would be a world where people didn't wear wigs and stockings at fancy events.
Do you think they foresaw how influential cats would be in the future?
You mean,
100%.
Did they predict furries? Is that your question?
No, 100% they knew about cats. Yeah, because that's ancient Egypt right there. You know what I mean?
Just how much they would fully take over everything.
Were they aware of toxoplasmosis is our question now. I mean, this is the thing. I hope that we provided some context here. And one thing I love that we all kind of said at the top was, yes, maybe speakers should be informed, on their subject of choice. I also want to go back to something that Matt said earlier, which is misinformation versus disinformation. Disinformation is when someone is purposefully trying to screw you over or swindle you intellectually. Misinformation is when someone with very good intentions is also incorrect. So if somebody is selling a book about the flat earth and they know the earth is round and they are still selling the book, that is disinformation.
So it's not illegal to be dumb, basically.
It can't be illegal to be dumb. That feels very wrong.
And I know it's reductive the way I'm putting it, and I'm not trying to talk smack to anybody, but that is the heart of the issue, right? In a way.
Well, to finish the comparison there too, if somebody genuinely believes the earth is flat and they're selling a book, then that's misinformation. And how could we fault them for putting their beliefs out there, right? Like why would we hit someone with a egregious fine or ruin their lives because they didn't know what they were talking about?
Yeah, but sadly, it's very difficult to run a test to see whether politicians truly believe in the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ and the word of the Bible. And therefore, we see weaponization and misdirection and misuse of that, under the guise of true belief. I mean, I think it exists. I think true belief exists for some of these folks, but I also think it's hijacked and it is a loophole that you can't prove that I don't believe that. Therefore, I'm basing all of my acts and opinions on this thing and saying that I believe it, and therefore I'm not giving disinformation.
Yeah, which is why Uncle G and the boys are starting at the university or credentialed level. So if you have a platform online in China where you are the go-to person on how to put out fires, right? Or how to prevent bridges from collapsing, shout out to that recent bridge collapse, which I think we all saw, then you need to have those qualifications. You can't just be some guy vibing on how to put out the fire in the apartment block. You can't be some guy who grew up just sort of liking bridges. You got to know engineering. You got to know how to be a firefighter. You can, if you are unqualified under this law, fellow Chinese conspiracy realists, you can pivot to topics outside of the regulated stuff. So if you have a big law blog, then you can say, hey, our channel's switching direction. Now I talk about watches, wristwatches, fancy watches, whatever, quesadillas. It doesn't matter. But I think our question now is, should the United States take a cue from our friends over the Pacific? People have died due to disinformation and to misinformation. And to the earlier point you were getting at there, Noel, with false claims of religious belief, there is no law in China against cynicism, right? It's just about information and disinfo or misinfo. There is no law against cynicism here in the United States. Actually, there's no law against cynicism. Let me think back off the dome here. There is no law against cynicism anywhere in current human civilization. It's just such a natural thing. It'd be like making a law against pooping.
Yeah, or sarcasm. Yeah. But I guess that's my point too, is like, how can you prove any of these things? Like, how can you prove that I'm being cynical? Maybe I'm just being realistic. You know what I mean? Like one person's cynical is another person's something else. Yeah,
that's why I'm returning again to how smart they were by saying it must be the following three fields, and it must be, the expertise must be proven in those fields. And if not, you get a fine, you might get shut down, you will get shut down, and then you may get a chance to pivot to different topics. So again, I think our thesis question here is, should the United States take the cue? People have, again, died due to disinformation and misinformation here in the US, right? So if that is an opportunity to save people, should we have credentialed experts, or to what degree does that imperil the First Amendment?
Ooh, I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
If it were in place here in the U.S., in this,
Sure.
conceptual, in this world where it happens, would we still be able to make this show?
That I knew you were going to ask that.
I have a journalism minor.
As a degree, not a newsboy.
No, not anymore.
Not anymore. Yeah, that's something that I think is true. Now, we, of course, do our level best to say what we don't know, right? And we are grateful for you, the most important part of the show, our fellow conspiracy realists who are experts in all sorts of fields. And we can't thank you enough for lending your expertise to us and your fellow listeners. But I do posit to that question, kind of anticipated there, Matt. I do posit it would massively change the landscape of the United States, not just for, little David v. Goliath podcasters like us, but also for political pundits, also for, and this is the umami, this is the juicy part at the end, political officials.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So wait, but you didn't answer the question. Would we still be able to make the show?
We'd be fine.
Okay.
We'd be fine.
Because, Noel, both of you guys have degrees that would match up. Yeah, we'd be fine. We'd have to maybe narrow the scope of what we talk about a little bit. But
yeah, our days of
Bigfoot's out.
Right. Wait, unless we could get a Bigfoot degree. Tell us about it, folks. And shout out to everybody who saw the Northern Lights as far south as Florida. There's a ton of stuff we didn't get to. Elon Musk wants the Optimus robot to help pre-crime you. You can get one for free.
And since we last talked about that last week, he got approved for that $1 trillion pay package.
Mm-hmm. We're entering the era of the K-shaped economy, which speaks to that point, Matt. There's so much to get to here. Thank you again for tuning in, folks. We know we ran a little bit long on this, but what do you think about the First Amendment and the idea of requiring university degrees to be an influencer? We'd love to hear your thoughts. You can find us on the internet. You can give us a telephone call. You can always write to us via email.
That's right. You can find us on the internet, if you wish to do so, at the handle Conspiracy Stuff, where we exist on Facebook with our Facebook group. Here's where it gets crazy. You can get in on the conversation there with a bunch of cool folks. We also exist at Conspiracy Stuff on YouTube, where we have video content galore for you to enjoy, as well as on XFKA Twitter, on Instagram, and TikTok. On the other hand, we're Conspiracy Stuff Show.
We have a phone number. It is 1-833-STDWYTK. Breaking news, guys. In New York City, right now, there is a giant solid gold toilet. It's just a regular sized functioning toilet made of solid gold. It is for auction right now, starting around $10.2 million.
My toilet? I have to go.
What would you do with it?
I have to go on several levels right now.
Is it a Toto washlet?
Ooh. Where will this toilet end up? All right. If you want to call us, do. If you want to send us an email, we are
the entities that read each piece of correspondence we receive. Be well aware, yet unafraid, sometimes the void writes back. Shout out to the Yule lads. Also, shout out to the Thai government. The Kingdom of Thailand did conspire to make Thai restaurants a thing. So tune in to Ridiculous History to learn more about that. In the meantime, please tell us your thoughts about the new Chinese law regarding influencers. Is this the right move for a social media age, or does it endanger the things we prize about the First Amendment? Conspiracy at iHeartRadio.com.
Stuff They Don't Want You to Know is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.